Hi, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from or tuning in from. I am Monica Rhodes, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce this new video series entitled Three and a Possible. So, as we know, histories are often multi layered, and the name of this show is no exception. If you are a spades player, then you know this phrase. This is a phrase you would use when you're predicting how many books you have in your hand when you're trying to win the game. Uh, Three and the Possible also represents the essence of cultural preservation, which is not just a conversation about the past, but one that concerns the future as well. Three and the Possible is predictive. Through this series, I will be chatting with experts in the preservation space and asking three and possibly four questions per interview. This is a free flowing discussion with my community of practice. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Alex Lim, who joins us from Tumacacori National Historical Park in Arizona. Alex is an architectural conservator and he joined the Park Service in 2012. He conserves earthen buildings and their remains, focusing on Hispanic and Native American heritage. He is particularly engaged with tribal members on both sides of the US Mexico border, including the Comasaki Seri in populations who have rich heritage that continues to remain vulnerable yet highly relevant to those who care for collective and diverse cultural heritage. Through hands on workshops, tours, and internship programs, he regularly advocates for heritage stewardship. Before Arizona, Alex worked on archaeological sites of the arid climate in the US Southwest and in the Mediterranean, Middle East. He holds a Master's of Science in Historic Preservation from the University of Pennsylvania and a Bachelor's in Natural Sciences from Johns Hopkins University. So, Alex, thank you for joining the conversation today. We'll jump right in, and I'll ask you, how did you get started in historic preservation? How did you learn about the work that you're currently leading with the National Park Service?
Hi, Monica. Hi, everybody. Man, my path to this field has been it's been a journey, really. It still is a journey. I'm originally from Korea. My family moved to the States when I was 16, eastern part of Pennsylvania. And growing up, my parents would take me and my brother to a lot of heritage sites. And there are many places, Buddhist temples, royal palaces, or just a little place where a famous author lived. These really formed the backbone of my interest in heritage field. But it never occurred to me as a specific profession. It happened when I moved to the U.S. As I was trying to find my identity, my footing in this world. Um, and I was a pre-med at Johns Hopkins. I mean, just a lot of talented people studying medicine. And at some point, it really kind of gave me a chance to examine why am I studying science and engineering? Why? I was really struggling. I was looking for ways to reconnect with what I really care. And the answer was history and arts in the past. So I was able to study abroad in Italy for a semester, which was marvelous.
Wait, pause,
Continued
Alex. I
reading.
didn't I didn't know that you were in Italy. Where were you?
I was in Florence for about 3 months.
Okay.
Johns Hopkins University has Villa Spellman program on the south side of the Arno River. Many hills. I lost a lot of weight even though I was eating a lot of food, drinking a lot of wine. But that was really what I needed because it provides a setting that's very different from, just strip mall after strip mall of American suburbs or really kind of sometimes depressing downtown city cores.
Yeah.
It is a place where history is really celebrated, appreciated, and still lives on the present day. So, and then I would like to mention the third part where, in order to stay connected to my culture and heritage, I continue reading books in Korean, and this one professor named Hong Jun Yu, he he studied art history, he's a professor of art history, and he wrote a series of books on his travels throughout Korea, highlighting why certain places matter, but in a very subjective way, why it appeals to him. And through these readings, I was able to really maintain that connection to where I'm from and where I want to be. So to just kind of summarize, yeah, pre-med background, science background, a lot of chemistry, all that, biology, but this humanism side of cultural heritage preservation really structured them all together for me, and um, that's what led me to this field right now.
Yeah, that's great. And I, Alex, we met because we were both students at UPenn, and when I came into the program, you were focusing in on conservation science. So I didn't know about your natural sciences background, so that kind of makes sense, and it makes me think about this next question. But I just want to spend some time here for a second. Why conservation science? Like, what about the STEM side of historic preservation? Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and how that
Uh,
relates to the work that you do now?
well, preservation is ultimately about materials and how they're assembled, right? The buildings, even landscape, it has to be material, like something tangible. So, in order to protect them, observing how they behave in nature, how they hold up in nature, is an aspect that's absolutely needed. Um, I'm not saying I'm a conservation scientist. There are really brilliant minds out there doing their research. Um, what I do mostly is really applying what they have found and observed over the years. This cumulative knowledge in applying to the that I help manage. So, understanding mathematics, physics, these are all relevant understanding in order for you to say, oh, this wall is because of gravity and because the bricks are not held together right, falling apart. You need to have that basic understanding. Just as much as doctors have to understand your pathology, how disease is spread. But ultimately, it's about how you use that and why you use the knowledge that really takes it to the next level in my mind. That was the attraction of the field because you can apply that knowledge.
Yeah, I love that. And for those tuning in, you may see some choppiness on the screen. It's fine. Tumacacori is in Arizona, and it's a remote location. So this is the beauty of working in these places. Certainly beautiful, but technology and high speed internet doesn't get everywhere or go everywhere. So we're powering through that. But so Alex he's coming in strong, but the video may be a bit choppy. So no worries about that. The conversation continues. So Alex, with the importance of the work that you do around heritage management, what are some projects that you're currently working on? Like, what are you focused in on these days?
Right now, my main focus is training up our interns. Right now, we are part of this partnership with American Conservation Experience, and they have a specific program called Traditional Trade Investment Program. And we have an intern who is for 6 months learning the basics of earth and architecture preservation and its stewardship, starting with what soils are, what are mud bricks, what are adobes, how do you build a wall with them, how the walls come together to form a building, and how these buildings last over time in this specific climate. And people may think Arizona is dry and hot. We do get rain. We sometimes even get snow. There are agents that are forcing these materials to change their form. So this is a very for me the most fun aspect because preservation is about continuation, and continuing the knowledge of these super fragile earthen architecture is of utmost importance. You know, I someone like me, conservators come and go, but what really you want to share is the love for your local heritage,
Mhm.
and the understanding of what you've learned from other people, other experts, how to take care of these places. So that is my main emphasis right now. Of course, we have some really cool projects with other partnership institutions, partner institutions, looking at painted finishes inside the church, Spanish era, and all this research get used by similar missions in the area. We maintain healthy relationship with our colleagues in Mexico, so that we can together do the right thing. Right now, boy, last 5 months, 5 weeks or so, been working outside in the sun, working on this earthen ruin, and it's been a lot of fun. So this has been a nice little break being in the office.
Yeah, yeah. It particularly struck me what you said about the young people getting excited and the continuity of preservation. So when I think about it,
Uh,
it's like, yeah, we have these buildings, we have these historic places, and they're preserved, and we want to preserve those stories, of course. But when I did the Hope Crew program, which stands for the Hands-on Preservation
mhm,
Experience, one thing that I realized is that the participants are becoming a part of the story. So while you're
mm,
preserving, you are becoming a part of the reason why that's standing 100 years from now. Like you, by stewarding and participating in this process, you're part of it. You become a
mm,
piece, an important piece of the story that and people that you have never met, the people who haven't been born, or people who had died before you were born, you're connected to them in that same way, because you at some point in time, or y'all at some point in time, had a focus in on ensuring and had identified that this place is important, and these skills that we have are important, and we want to put them to use here. And so I think you bring up a beautiful point of the connection, that preservation, how preservation connects people across place and time by the act of just preserving, in addition to the building and the stories that are embodied in these places.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's funny if I think about my career here. I mean, like I mentioned, I'm from Korea. I have nothing to do with this region, and for whatever reason, um, I ended up here, and I'm helping people preserve their heritage. But what's more interesting is they see me as somebody who is interested in their history and their culture. And you mentioned Native Americans. It's not just Mexican culture here or Spanish colonial culture here. It's also the borderland. And borderland is defined by the interaction between the U.S. and Mexican nationality. And there are people who have lived here a long time, like Tohono O'odham, the Pasquayaki, the Rapachis. So there are many entities that form the unique space called borderland.
Mhm.
And for me to be part of that, that's very exciting. That's very American. That's something that, you know, if I were living somewhere else, it'd be totally different. But people have been welcoming me here, and it feels good that I'm being part of the community, and would like to continue that.
Yeah. And the other thing I think I want to just kind of double click on is this, US Mexico border, and managing heritage, help being a part of that community on both sides of the border. Right. And I'd just
Right.
like to hear a bit more, like as I'm over here in Italy now, just thinking how, cultural heritage and having these conversations brings our communities together, because we're working around this problem. We see these histories are as important, and I've found great value in connecting with people from
Mm,
different parts of the world who are also working on heritage issues. So I just like to hear from your perspective. What has that experience been like
Sure. Yeah.
working with
I mean,
colleagues on the side of the border?
Diversity is a fantastic thing because can you imagine a world where everybody's the same? Like the word identity would have no meaning because everybody's the same. The borderland is like dramatic exemplification of diversity in play. People can see the contrast when they leave Nogales, Arizona on the U.S. side to enter Mexican side Nogales. They'll see the immediate change. The climate's the same. The the topography is the same. It's really how people have more or less as a group evolved over time and manifest materially if we're talking of built heritage. And so that's really exciting thing. And that's why I love traveling where you see differences and by looking at different aspects of different lives, you really get to reflect back and discover more about yourself, which is what I'm doing. I'm an immigrant to this country. I will remain a Korean because that's who I am, and I do my part to stay connected with my culture, whether speaking the language, practicing cultural aspects of cooking and all that. And as a father to a daughter who's half Mexican, half Korean, I have my responsibility to make sure that what I care about gets passed on to my daughter. So, and that is so common here. I mean, you see Americans marrying Mexicans down here, Yaquis marrying all of them. It's so diverse. And, although on paper it's just two nation states, there's more to it than people realize or what they see on the news only.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm also thinking about, and I appreciate you bringing up the fact that you're thinking about the future that you want to create for your daughter, right? So it's not even like, yeah,
Mhm.
when we met, we were grad students, and it was just us kind of thinking, in our little small book about this.
Right.
But now we're in a different season of life. It's all about,
Yeah.
well, what is the purpose of this work that we're doing? Like, what's the why behind it? At the end of the day, because life moves fast, and if you're not thinking, two, three, 4 steps ahead, 50 years ahead, whatever, you're
Yeah.
playing a short game, right? Like you're thinking small. So I appreciate you for like centering your daughter in this conversation, Alex. How's she doing, by the way?
Well, it's very important because
Yeah,
ultimately, yeah, because identity starts from home.
yeah.
You're born, your parents begin that initial formation of your identity, who you are, and to be not part of it, I mean, what a missed chance.
Mhm.
People can get sucked into work, commute to work all they need to, but ultimately you have to think about why am I, you know, working hard to
Yeah.
do whatever. Um, so that's a really precious time. And but what I for what I want to emphasize is that every preservation, whether now or in the future, really, I think it has to begin at the local level. You don't have to try to mm, say just global and mix everything in because then you don't have anything. Every local history matters. And what I've seen over the years, living here in southern Arizona, as one of very few Koreans, 11 years, is that there are people who have stuck around in one small area at a time that do their part, whether they are in the news or not, doing their part. And they're the ones that really continue that local heritage. So it's very important to give them a shout, highlight them, and really appreciate for what they do. And they're not even doing it for money. I mean, they don't even realize it. they'll just thinking probably, oh yeah, it's a family business. We've been running for 3 generations, or well, it's a business I inherited. Making local food, uh, traditional trades. Making adobes. These are something that require time, fixed in a particular region, and the the expression of these experiences and knowledge, they are very precious. And America is a big country. There's so many of these local um, um, cultures, and people think, oh, for my vacation I'm going to go to Europe. After traveling across this country, boy, there's a lot to see. I mean, there's really a lot, and a lot to support. So wherever you are, whether you live in Baltimore, whether you're from Chicago, or whether you're from I mean, there's so many things everybody can do. There's always stories. There's always connection to be made. So I think it's very exciting time because with all this technology, all that, there are a lot more things that people can do.
Yeah, absolutely. As we say in our field, like all preservation is local. It's like all politics. Like the strongest laws with the sharpest teeth are at your local level. That's where people are watching. That's where people feel most connected to it. Any national park that we know of, or huge preservation effort. It all started at the local level from a group of people saying, we want to elevate this story. We want to elevate this site to national significance. And that was local strategy and people being
Mm.
committed to and knowing that their stories were important enough for the nation to know about it. So spot on. So
Absolutely. I mean, that.
yeah,
Yeah, I just want to give a shout to some local groups that uh, are need of highlight. I mean, Camp Naco, right on the border culture. Buffalo soldiers were stationed there. Adobe buildings, parts of them in ruins, or these motor courts in Tucson. I mean, with neon signs. It's just where people were traveling through the country to LA, whatever, from coast to coast, passing through Tucson. There are these remnants. Tucson Inn, owned by Tumacacori Community College. Mission San Javier outside of Tucson, our kind of sister mission unit. And of course, where I work, Tumacacori. These are all local. And local people have taken care of them, will continue to be like that. Um, that's how it'll stay relevant, stay important, stay sustainable.
yeah. So with that in mind, as we're kind of thinking about the future and sustainability, I'm curious, Alex, what do you see as the future of our field? What should we be thinking about, talking about? Where should we be putting our money? What should the students who were where we were, let's say a few years ago, what should they be focusing their work on these days? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if you are a student, um, I mean, we talk about what do we want the students to learn, so that they can be stewards down the road. I would like to mention the one of the most important things that schools and classrooms don't cover. That is imagination. I've seen I've seen people who see a vision. They have a dream, when they look at these dilapidated earthen buildings. If you are a developer or just looking at these buildings as real estate, they won't see them that way. But people who have emotions of emotional attachment, or who want to form that connection, they use their imagination like no other. And I think it all starts from that. So the future of preservation, what do I want to emphasize? Imagine as much as you can. Nobody's going to penalize you, but also to have greater imagination, the breadth of imagination. Travel a lot. Go see how others live. Go see how others take care of other places. Go visit all these different locals. Just increase your capacity. the tenacity for imagination, boy, and you'll just make big change. I think that's where the future is.
Well said. Man, that's spot on, Alex. I dig that because that you're right. When we think about preservation, most folks find themselves in the regulatory space, in the policy space, and old and imagination or old and innovation. We don't necessarily find those often in the same conversations or even the same sentences. So I appreciate you for underscoring that the work that we've done takes imagination and to think about our future is going to take even more of it and not being beholden
Mm,
to the way that we've done things just because that's the way that we've done them.
right.
Yeah. So Alex, as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share? Particularly, how do people follow you? Are you on the Twitter, the LinkedIn? Where can we follow your work?
Well, I work for National Park Service. We care for many sites throughout the country. So I would just urge you to become a strong fan of Park Service. I know you are already, but not just blind followers. We get paid by taxpayer money. It's a federal agency. It really needs vigilant examination of how we operate, what are our strengths, but also weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. Um, I don't believe in just supporting an entity just blindly. Have a critical mind, but also expressive, and believe that creative minds can really advance a lot of our country's needs, and it'll be fun that way.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you for taking the time and for everyone to become fans of the national parks because they're ours. They belong to the public. And Alex, I can't thank you enough for joining in. It's good to see you. Wait to see you in person. It's been too long. So soon
Absolutely.
enough.
Come visit. Come visit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as we for next week, y'all, please feel free to tune in again. We'll be joined by Jason Church of the National Center for Preservation Technology and Training, also staying in the NPS world for next week. So tune in next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And thank you again for joining in. And Alex, appreciate you, man. I'll see you later.
See you later.